Hey, shalom everybody, this is Benaiah of Bakar Kisa Takobi Study Group in Kansas City. I am a practitioner of Self-Dakota under Damon Stith. If you want more information dealing with Self-Dakota, you can type in Damon Stith. You also could type in Self-Dakota and a multitude of information will pop up. My primary focus in Self-Dakota would be North African swords and West African swords. So today we're talking about the Takoba sword, and we also are talking about the Hausa tribe. So when it comes to the Takoba sword, you have the Tuareg of North Africa, they use the Takoba sword. And also the Hausa tribes of West Africa, they had their version of the Takoba sword. So the topic today is, did the Hausa tribes thrust with the Takoba? Did they thrust with their version of the Takoba, which is called the Takobi? So that is the topic of today. But the British played a big part in colonizing Africa. In 1884 through 1885, you have the Berlin Conference, when all the different European powers came together and they colonized Africa. They created imaginary borders and they split the continent up between all the different European powers. So the British played a major role in this. The British stole natural resources from Africa. So now we have documentation of this German explorer named Hendrik Barth. This German explorer, he was on a British sanctioned expedition that was in 1850 through 1855. Produced one of the most detailed early accounts of West African societies, including the Hausa regions. So we're going to read this documentation of this man's observation. So British administrators and military personnel frequently commented on Hausa soldier qualities. They were often described as disciplined, loyal, intelligent, physically strong, courageous, and compared favorably to other well-regarded groups like the Gurkhas. So he's comparing us to other different military campaigns, describing our organization. So we had organization, we was very intelligent, we was loyal, and we was disciplined. And it says a British official in the 1920s stated that Hausa is a fierce fighting man. So he's describing the military and the spirit that was in the Hausa Empire. The Hausa is a fierce fighting man, and if properly led, is a most excellent native soldier. So he's telling you the fighting spirit that the Hausa had. It was fierce. So did they use thrusting techniques? You could tell by the forging techniques of the Hausa. So weapons making and the use of techniques. Understanding the forging process of the Hausa will allow you to understand how the weapons were intended to be used. Weapons with narrow tapering points are optimized for thrusting. Weapons with narrow tapering points are optimized for thrusting. So you have the Takoba, which is the North African sword that the Tuareg used, and you have the Takobi, which is what the Hausa used. Both of these swords are similar swords, but the Hausa sword has more of a tapering end, more of a sharp end that was made for thrusting. When you look at the Takoba, the end of the sword was more rounded. It's still a double-edged sword, but it was more rounded. And they thrusted. But when you examine the Hausa sword, their version of the Takoba, the Takobi, it was a sharp edge, which was used for thrusting. Every year, Nigeria has a festival that's called Dabar. So forgive me if I'm pronouncing these words wrong. I'm trying to do the best I can, so forgive me. So every year, the Hausa have festivals called Dabar, which involves in ritualizing weapon displays, including spears and swords being thrusted or pointed as symbols of authority, power, or aggression. So when they're performing these sword dances, they're using thrusting techniques. Horsemen perform mock charges with spear displays. Thrusting movements may be choreographed. So when they're choreographing and doing these dances, they're using thrusting techniques with the spear and thrusting techniques with the sword. So now I went to ChatGPT. I did my own research. So how's the sword fighting techniques? I'm gonna read some of these different techniques that the military used pre-colonial era. So forgive me if I pronounce these names wrong. So you have Gujiwa, which is a straight thrust. Gujiwa is a straight thrust. This is a direct linear thrust targeting the opponent's center line, the chest, throat, or the abdomen. So these are different thrusting techniques that the Hausa was using. Gujiwa, a straight thrust, and this thrust was to the chest, to the throat, or to the abdomen. So this other one is called Sequenquance, which is an off-angle thrust, a slightly diagonal thrust, intended to bypass a shield or a parry. So these are different thrusting techniques that the Hausa use. Sequenquance, an off-angle thrust. And when you do more research, like I did, it says it refers to military tactics used by soldiers, particularly in the Hausa context, where a soldier executed a thrust attack while in a prone lying down position. This technique allows for a quick or powerful move, even when the soldier is not standing or fully upright. Sanquan can be understood as thrust or push, a forceful action, and quance refers to being in a lying down position. So in military terms, thrust from the ground or prone thrust, which involves springing into action from a low or lying position to quickly attack or defend. You also have Gurgisa Takobi, which is a feint to thrust. So this is a feint, then you thrust after you conduct your feint. Involves feinting with a slash or a high movement, then converting it into a low or mid-level thrust. These are the different techniques. You also have Tunkundo, which is a charging thrust, a powerful charging thrust used in cavalry or aggressive foot soldier tactics. The thrust follows a forward lunge or a full body step, maximizing reach and force, often paired with a war cry or a shield bash to disrupt the enemy's morale or balance. Then also you have a duca de Takobi. Duca de Takobi, which is a shield and sword thrust, involves using a round or oval Hausa shield or garkua to deflect, then thrust around it. The shield controls the center line while the sword stabs from an angle, common in line formation or duels where shields play a major role. So hopefully this add context, y'all. This is contributed to historical African martial arts, Bakar Kiza Takoba study group. Like I said, if you want more information dealing with self-Dakota, contact Damon Stith. You can watch his page, get more information. You also can contact me for more information dealing with self-Dakota. And with that, we say shalom.